Ambassador Abdurrahman Fakhr, Indonesia was the country hardest hit back in 1997-98 financial crisis because of the Asian financial crisis. Yet it set a great example in resurrecting its economy and keeping its economy afloat after this crisis. Could you give us a quick recipe for this successful attempt for developing your country again?
In 1998, we suffered a lot with this crisis. And at that time, we were not really ready to face this crisis. And we were a bit slow in reviving our economic development. But at this current financial crisis, we are more than ready. That's why our basic economic is fine with us, but still there is economic growth is still affected. Before the crisis, we set like 6% of economic growth, but now we must be hoping that we could reach like 4. But of course, since we don't have any problem with the basic need of people like food, because we are self-sufficient in food. So it helped us a lot in cope with this problem.
You once said one of the factors that helped you most was focusing on the human factor, on human resources. Yes. And you mentioned in particular education. Would you elaborate on that point there?
Yes, actually since the reform took place in Indonesia, the constitution obliged 20% of our budget should be devoted to education. So
20%.
20%. But of course, the government is trying very hard to reach that level. It's not easy. So that's why gradually now we are reaching into 12% of our budget, national budgets, devoted for education. Hopefully, maybe in 3-year time, we will be able to reach that the level that's set by the constitution.
Engineer Muhammad Baraka, do you think that Egypt can benefit from the Indonesian example in dealing with the crisis? Let's start with its current economic reform program and encountering also the current economic slowdown.
First of all, I would like to explain something about the food you explained now. Indonesia, till last year, they was importing rice. The main food for Indonesia is rice. This year, Indonesia started to export rice. Now they grow more than they need, rice and sugar. They was importing rice and sugar.
Until last year.
Now they're exporting rice and sugar. Indonesia is very clever. They look what they need and they do it. Not only for import, they export. They plan to export rice and sugar before they import. Now they cover and start to export. If we explain about the crisis in Indonesia in 1998, I was there in Indonesia. I don't feel they have a crisis. I don't feel it. This year, Indonesia export one item only, printer of computer, $5 billion in 1998.
In the middle of the financial crisis.
In the year of crisis. In the year of the crisis. The companies, when they established business in Indonesia, they established for planning to export. This is the difference between factory or planning in factory in Indonesia to establish or Egypt. When we start, we look only in our local market because we need big profit. We don't look for the other market. Indonesia, when they establish any project, they study how to export. Any project, when I speak with the people to invest in Egypt, they speak about exporting minimum 80% from their product. That means their planning built for export, not for local market. This is the difference between Egypt and Indonesia when they establish business. When the crisis happened in Indonesia, the people look in the front. Nobody looked down. Nobody, no factory stopped. Even with any prices, they running and they working. And we don't feel it in Indonesia that they have a crisis. Even this year in crisis, we don't feel. Because when you discuss with any factory in Indonesia that there is crisis, they said we reduce our commodity or we reduce our product to match the same prices or just low level, not go down very much, and they cover the workers. Nobody take the workers out.
No
We
layoffs.
don't hear it. We don't hear it in Indonesia that they take the, like we hear now in America, this company take 150,000 out, and this bank take 200,000 out, and no,
No
we
layoffs.
don't feel. I think we have to.
To readjust our target?
I don't like to say learn from Indonesia how to do. I don't like to say that because Egypt is very clever people. People is very clever. When we take the engineering to learn them in Indonesia, the Indonesian engineering said they are very clever. They learn very fast and they know everything very fast. That means we are clever. But we need some to lead us. This is the difference.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for tonight's episode of The Ambassador. Once again, I'd like to thank Engineer Muhammad Baraka, Chairman of the Egyptian-Indonesian Business Council. And once again, I'd like to thank our host, Indonesian Ambassador in Egypt, Ambassador Abdurrahman Mohammed Fakhr, our host for tonight's episode. Thank you very much for speaking to Nile TV International, and thank you very much for your hospitality.
Thank you, Hani. Thank you, Hindu.